Couldn't we have done this over the phone?
It's better face to face.
Then couldn't we have done this in person?
I don't want to be that close to you.
Isn't that a metaphor for our entire relationship?
Fuck you, Dylan.
You'll miss my dry wit when this is over.
Now that's the last thing I'll miss.
Well, Maria, what's the first thing you'll miss?
Your library.
Uh, Books are the best part of me. Also, I have style.
Aesthetics matter.
Adorno thought so.
Yes, he did.
In fact, he said that art shows people what they could be instead
Don't
of
do that.
do what?
This isn't one of our evenings together where you say something smart and provocative and I say something smarter and more provocative, and we open a bottle of wine and we each take a separate end of the couch, and you say Adorno and I say Derrida, and we argue until we end up in the middle of the couch and then in bed. Deconstruction was our foreplay. We don't do that anymore.
Can't we just have one last argument before you go?
You don't consider this an argument? The end of our relationship isn't an argument?
I mean, an argument about something big, like an idea, something that ultimately matters.
I always knew I didn't matter.
That's not what I'm saying.
It's what you just said. I'm just repeating back to you what you just said, you gaslighting motherfucker.
I never did. I never meant to do that.
Well, you did. All the time.
Was I really that cruel?
Yes.
All the time.
No.
There's something at least.
Yes. That's something. And isn't that fucked up?
Yeah, it is. Because truly, if I ever did anything that made you feel like you weren't, like you were somehow less than that you weren't brilliant, then it is truly unforgivable, and I am deeply sorry.
It's nice to hear that, finally.
I never meant to challenge your reality, to make you doubt yourself. I just loved arguing with you. It was like arguing with a better version of myself, which possibly makes me more of a solipsist than a gaslighter.
Please don't choose what abuser terminology you get labeled with. That's not your right.
Yes, sorry. I got lost in the bigger idea. This is what I did all the time, wasn't it? Avoided our relationship by arguing philosophy?
Yes. And in the beginning, it made us better and smarter. We were grad students. We didn't have time for an actual adult relationship. Life is study, eat, drink, sleep, argue, fuck. And if you're honest about it, you could do away with everything but arguing and drinking.
That's not untrue.
And when all was said and done, I wanted to build a relationship, and you wanted to keep arguing.
It's how I show my love.
Really?
I barely talk to anyone I don't care about, let alone argue with them. You said it yourself. It was foreplay.
It was when it was playful, when it was at the end of a long day after a couple of glasses of wine. But eventually it became the breakfast conversation and the dinner conversation, and then it was lectures all the time. Living with you became exhausting.
Yeah, well, being me is exhausting too.
I imagine it is. You need to fix that.
How?
It's not my job to tell you. Not anymore.
Was it ever?
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
I I don't recall you ever telling me there was a problem. I don't recall you ever asking me to change. Did you let me know there was a problem? Did you ever speak to me? Ever? Or did you just go write it in your journal?
How did this all become my fault?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that neither one of us was the best at communication.
Okay, I will agree with that. I like to argue, but I hate conflict. I'm a paradox.
Hmm. Everything we did was in service to the big idea, not the small, everyday ones that make a relationship work.
Would you have changed if I asked?
I don't know. I think I would have gotten angry if you asked. I think I would have gotten defensive. I think changing would have felt like something I was entirely incapable of doing. Just, I think everything would have gotten worse. And I think, no, I'm sure I would have hated myself for it, and I would have made that your problem. I would have definitely shifted the blame.
That's really honest.
I'm always honest once I've exhausted all obfuscations and rhetorical trickery.
There's the boy I fell in love with.
Oh, it's nice to know he's still in there somewhere.
You're not entirely unlovable.
That's not what you said when you left.
Yeah, I know.
Hmm? Hmm.
But you're not unfixable. I just can't be the one to do it.
Is there anything you're actually gonna miss about me?
I'll miss the times when you were kind. You were so present in those moments. It was like you were discovering how to be kind for the first time. You delighted in your own kindness. It was like your own kindness caught you off guard. And it was beautiful and innocent and pure. And I'll miss those moments.
Wow. Talk about damning with faint praise.
No, I'm sorry. I know it sounds that way, but it's actually a good thing. It wasn't that you were mostly unkind. It's just that you were usually the you of the world, the person life made you into. When you were kind, you were the you in the world, the real you.
Did you find faith when I wasn't looking?
No, my new therapist quotes that a lot. She says it's a good way to separate who we are from who we've been made to be, from what's been done to us.
Who are you when you are of the world?
Filled with doubt, silent, because I hate and diminish my own voice, in full retreat from people around me because I'm afraid they'll need me to be someone I'm not strong enough to be. I have a voice in my head that just keeps telling me I'm stupid and worthless and weak. Sounds like my dad. And we were getting to the point where it was starting to sound like you.
Wow. We were doomed to fail, weren't we?
Yeah, but we tried to the very best of our very limited capabilities. And that is something.
Yeah, I guess it is. So I think I'm gonna go. I want to pour myself something and think.
Scotch,
Yeah.
one of those really heavy ones that smells like a tire fire.
Yes.
It's your rumination beverage.
Hmm.
Anytime I'd see you pour it into your favorite glass and give it a little swirl, I knew you'd be spending most of the night in the big chair by the window thinking. Another thing I'll miss watching you think. You're a very active thinker.
You're a kinder person than I deserve right now.
It doesn't have to end terribly. It just has to end.
That's a good way of looking at it.
But if you need, I can be the villain to your friends.
What do you mean?
I mean, when you tell the story of our breakup and everything leading up to and this final conversation, I can be the villain to your friends.
Our friends?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm just saying that you're going to do it anyway. This is just how it's going to play out. You're going to replay this argument in your head over and over, and you'll make it adversarial, and you'll get defensive, and you'll make me the villain. And I'm just saying it's okay. You can do that. Just promise me that you'll get through it. You'll come out the other side and fix what's wrong. Don't be miserable. Find another me. Make both of you miserable. Be mad. Be hurt. But just figure it the fuck out.
Okay, I will. Is there anything else you need to say? Anything you need to ask before we hang up?
Yeah. And this is weird. And it's really stupid that I never asked you, but you rarely talked about your family, and I was afraid to push it. But I've always been curious, where the hell did you get the name Dylan from? Did your parents name you after Bob Dylan?
No.
So where did it come from?
The same place Bob Dylan got from Dylan Thomas. My mom was an army brat. She grew up all over Europe and the UK, and she was in Cardiff for a while. And my grandmother used to read her a Child's Christmas in Wales over the holidays, and she really loved it.
That's sweet.
Yeah, My family hasn't really it's never really had any roots, so we really hold on tight to any traditions, moments of joy, things that feel like home that we've picked up along the way.
That's the first time I've heard you use the word joy in relation to your family.
It wasn't all bad. It wasn't all good. It was hard.
I'm sorry there was so much cruelty.
I wouldn't say cruelty. There was discipline, a harsh discipline. A lot was expected from you. When you're a black family abroad, it's difficult. You get to sample all different kinds of racism in the world. Do you think there's a lot of black folks in Wales? In Denmark? My grandparents were in the military. My dad was in the Navy, and most of it was international. So you put yourself in a country where you're in the minority, like 1%, and then you go ahead and put yourself on a military base with all the shit that entails. You got yourself, you got your family, and that's it. You, and that's not healthy. My grandparents didn't have friends. My parents didn't have friends, and when they settled back in the U.S. when I was about 5 years old, I wasn't encouraged to have friends. In a little microcosm like that, you get some things, some tradition, some joy, but you get a lot of stuff that festers, a lot of stuff that terrifies.
What used to terrify you?
It sounds stupid, but like I said, my dad was a Navy man, and more than any other branch, the Navy has a real family tradition, especially American, and you can trace your roots all the way back. The Navy was the only much always allowed you to numbers. Enlistment numbers were so low. The Army didn't let us in until 1862, the Marines until 1942, so our house was always filled with books about boats and the history of boats. One was this huge book on the golden age of piracy. It was full of all these really detailed paintings of pirates, and one of the pirates was Blackbeard. He scared the shit out of me. He didn't look human. His beard and his hair all connected into this mane with what looked like horns, and he had fireworks woven into it. So in the picture, his head was all enshrouded in smoke, and he was boarding a ship like a demon emerging from hell.
It's so weird what kids make a part of their mythology. My mom was really into musical theater, so for me, pirates sang songs and were just kind of goofy.
Yeah, well, as soon as I saw it, I started having nightmares. And instead of telling me it wasn't real, or like he was real, but just a man and long dead, or anything that would have stopped the nightmares, they just saw it as an opportunity to keep me in line. Pick up your clothes, or Blackbeard's gonna come in and get you. Don't talk back, or Blackbeard's gonna kill haul you.
It's awful.
It was especially effective around Christmas.
I can imagine.
If I had friends, as a kid, I probably uh, would have learned early on that Blackbeard, like Santa, is mostly a myth. But when it's just, you and your parents, reality warps. Your sense of self distorts. You can't question anything. You just believe what they tell you about the world and yourself. And if they tell you it's bad, if they tell you you're bad, what are you gonna do? fight about it, question it.
You just talk it through over and over, staring at your bedroom ceiling.
Exactly. When you're in a military family, the only fights you have any chance of winning are the ones you play out in your head at night. I was always either alone or with my parents. And so I lived in this world of absolute terror. If I did something wrong, Blackbeard would be there with his ropes and his truncheon and his angry red eyes, so I couldn't make any mistakes. And kids make mistakes. It's what they do. So I couldn't even be a kid. I had to be this other lifeless little thing. When Blackbeard appeared in my room at night, I'd pretend to be asleep, but that never worked. So I decided to pretend to be dead. And then I decided to pretend to be dead during the day. And I figured out how a dead boy would walk around, how a dead boy would speak to his parents, how a dead boy might grow into a man. I wish I told you all this the night we got together.
So do I.
I'm sorry.
Me too.
I'm gonna go now.
Okay. But Dylan, you can make me the villain, but don't make me Blackbeard. This relationship was fucked up. You fucked up. I made mistakes. It was a rough few years for both of us. But don't let it haunt you. Don't you dare make me into something that haunts you. Right now, for just this moment, I'm your friend. And I'm telling you, your issues are real, but Blackbeard is a myth. The world your parents created for you is a myth. There is a real world out there. Be in it now.
Stockings hung in 2s and 4s. Santa and Mrs. Claus. Frosty's here to marry you. Elvis sings of Christmas blues. It's hard to be solo when you see the first snowfall. Blankets are big enough for 2. Candy canes tied in a bow. Berries and leaves on the mistletoe. If you're alone on Christmas, the problem's you.